Is it fast till noon today? Okay, it's fast till noon. Okay. Yeah, once remind the teacher about that. All right. Big crowd this morning. Okay, you don't need to find the picture. I just telling him back there. So today it is the celebration or commemoration of the disappearance day of two great personalities. Of course, one is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is the spiritual master of Srila Gaurkishordas Babaji Maharaj, who is the spiritual master of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is the spiritual master of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder, Acharya of the Krishna consciousness movement. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, Prabhupada instructed us on these specific days, we should chant the prayers to the departed Vaishnavas as part of the class. So that's the last song in the songbook. It's called Saparshada Gora Viraha Vilapa. Jai Anilo Prema Janda Korana Prachupur Heno Prabhu Kaujage Nagagagacharya Thakur Kamora Saruprupa Kahasana Chagan Kasanatan Kakatasa Raghunatha Patita Bhavakan Kahamura Macha Yuga Kakakamirahas Ekakale Kotagela Goranataras Pashane Kutebo Makta Annale Pasibo Goranga Gonera Kota Gele Babo Gonera Nere Kota Gele Bebo Sesaba Sangira Sange Koilo Milakas Se sangana payak Kandena the tambodas Nakpaya Kandena the tamodas Jayanila Prema Dana Koruna Prachur Jaya Bhakti Vinod Thakur Bhakti Vinod Thakur Bhakti Vinod Thakur Bhakti Vinod Thakur Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya, also Tada Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada, ISKCON founder, Srila Prabhupada, Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrindikajai, Namacharya, Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrindikajai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Shayama Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Kijai Vrindavanam ki jai, Mathuradam ki jai. Jagannath Swami ki jai, Yamudamai ki jai. Srimati Lassi Devi ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premananda, Hari Hari Bol. Oh, glorious the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious the assembled devotees. Oh, glorious the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Samani Chinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shunyavadi, Paschatya Dejatarni. So today is the commemoration of the disappearance day of two personalities, Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, who is Radharani in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, member of the Panchatattva, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the great Acharya, who we mentioned before, is the spiritual master of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who is the spiritual master of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and the spiritual master of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya. So let me read the translation first of this poem by Narottam Das Thakur. He brought the treasure of divine love, and it was filled with compassion and mercy. Where is such a personality as Srinivasa Acharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishna's Kavi Raj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities, being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. And of course, this can be our mood during these Disappearance Day celebrations, that we are feeling separation, even though we may not have been with Bhaktivinoda Thakur when he was on this planet, but still hearing about him manifests his presence, and we can feel this great longing to be in his presence. Just like we hear about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I try to read the Chaitanya Charitamrita every day, and I was just thinking, why wasn't I there? And thinking, it'd just be so wonderful. And you picture yourself in the presence. That's the feeling of separation, even though we may not have been with that great personality whose disappearance day we are commemorating. So, first I'm going to talk about, Omagana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshurun Miditam Yeda Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, first we're going to talk about Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disappearance and his daily life, and then I'll get into as much of his biography as I can, given the limited amount of time. So, of course, he disappeared in the Christian year, 1914, and the date was June 23rd, which happened to be the summer solstice, which is really interesting. You know, very auspicious day to leave this world. And it's also the disappearance day of Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. So his remains were interred in Godram Dvipa, which is right across the river from our Mayapur temple. And his commemoration, celebration took place at that time. Now, as far as his daily life was concerned, we know that he was a grahasta, and he had a family, and he was very responsible insofar as that was concerned. So how was he able to publish so many literatures, which we're going to mention in a few seconds? Well, here is his schedule. How he was considered to be the seventh Goswami. Now, we know about the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, how they were nijahara vahara. They were able to give up eating and sleeping Perhaps they would rest for half an hour or an hour and a half a day, eat a little buttermilk or something every day or 2 days. And in this way, they were able to survive and write their transcendental literature. We cannot understand the position of these great personalities who were able to not only survive, but produce volumes and volumes of the most elevated subject matters of work. I mean, hearing about Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami when he was in his 90s, we mentioned that before, and what to speak of Jiva Goswami and other personalities. So anyway, these 6 Goswamis, they were in the renounced order of life. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur was ostensibly a householder. Yet he was called the 7th Goswami because he was just as renounced as the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan and was able to balance both aspects of his responsibilities. Now here's his daily schedule. At 7:30 to 8 o'clock at night, he would take rest, and after about 2 hours, he would rise. Now most of us have problems if we don't get at least 6, 7, or even 8 hours of rest at night. So he would rise, and then he would write his literature at that time until 4 a.m. in the morning. At 4 a.m., he would take a little rest till 4:30. Then he'd wash his hands and face, chant japa, till about 7 o'clock, in which he would write letters, carry on his correspondence. And at 7:30, he would read transcendental literature. At 8:30, this is a normal daily schedule. He'd receive guests and would continue to read. And at, again, 9:30 to 9:45, he'd take a power nap, some more rest. 9:45, he took his full morning bath, took his breakfast, which is just a half quart of milk and a couple of chapatis and some fruit. And then he went to court because he was a court justice. And in the court, he would wear his coat and pants, but he would always keep his tilak and his double-sized neck beads on. He was extremely strong in his decisions. He accomplished in a half a day of court what most of the other judges would accomplish in a full day of court. And he was so strict. Whoops. Haribol. No talking, please. He was so strict that he didn't allow any other instruments other than mridanga and cartels. He didn't even allow harmonium. So he didn't allow. Just mridanga and cartels. The reason for that, some people may say, what's wrong with the harmonium? Prabhupada, of course, played the harmonium. Is that many times when people get into other instruments, they get into different aspects, melodic things and other aspects of the instruments that take the mind away from the holy name. So one has to be very careful in the application of these instruments to see if the instruments are augmenting our concentration on the holy name or they're pulling our consciousness away from the holy name. So it's a very, very important point. So anyway, so at 1 p.m., so I said he went to court, and 1 p.m. the court was finished. He went home and bathed and refreshed himself. At 2 o'clock, he returned to the court or to his office at the court. And at 5 p.m., he'd translate works from Sanskrit to Bengali or even write books in Sanskrit. He was quite proficient in Sanskrit. He would write some of his literature in Sanskrit. And then he'd take his evening bath and meal of rice, a couple of chapatis, and a little milk. And he was always very punctual. The reason we're talking about the schedule is because he was one of the first acharyas, or maybe the first acharya, to use a watch Now, he didn't have the same type of watch that we have, even a mechanical watch. He had a pocket watch, which he kept in his pocket. And so I don't think they had wristwatches at that time. And he was always very charitable, and he was befriending everyone. He never showed any pride, and he was amiable towards everyone. And he never accepted any gifts from anyone. He declined all honors and titles because he thought that they would stand against his mission in life. He avoided luxurious life. He would not even, as most people did, he would not even chew betel nut. That's an intoxication. He didn't go to any theaters, and he was quite educated in different languages, called a polyglot. Polyglot means someone who knows many different languages. Bengali, Sanskrit, English, Latin, Urdu, Persian, and Aryan. And he started writing his books when he was 12 years old. And there's a list here, which I'm not going to read because that would take the rest of the class to read the list of his books. And so we can show you some of them, just beginning here at the bottom, and then another page, and then another page, and another page, and partial page there. So that's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's literary output as a householder. And amazing. So now we're going to start with a little bit of his history. Whoops. Right, beginning. Oh, how did we get there? Hold on a second. Whoop. Trying to go back to the beginning. There we go. So he was born on September 2nd, 1838. So that means he lived in this world for 76 years. 1838. 76 years, which is quite a long lifespan at that particular time. I was looking at Gadadhar Pandit Goswami's lifespan, and it was the same as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's. Amazing. Only 48 years. Same as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he was born in the Nadia district, not too far from where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was born, and a family that had money, but most of the family members were averse to Krishna consciousness. In fact, he was named after Lord Shiva, as far as his birth name is concerned, Kedaranatha by his godfather. So when he was 11 years old, his father passed away, and then his fortune or family fortune changed, and he went through great difficulties, extreme poverty. And his mother, who was taking care of him at that time, arranged the marriage to his first wife. His first wife died after some time, and he married his second wife when he was only 12 years old. And that was the system at that time. Of course, they didn't live together, the boy and the girl, until they were of mature age. So there was a Muslim soothsayer who predicted that the village where he was living would become pestilence-ridden and deserted. And he also predicted that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was Kedaranath at that time, would become recognized as a great devotee of Lord Krishna eventually. At 18, he went to college. That's in 1856 in Calcutta. And he became quite expert in English and Bengali, and was writing in both of these languages. And he actually even taught English speech making to a person who later became a well-known orator in the British Parliament. He even composed a English epic in 1857, when he was 19 years old, which he called the Poriad, which is about the life of Porus, who met Alexander the Great. Now, in the beginning, he was very much attracted to Christian theology. The reason he was attracted to Christian theology is that Christian theology is monotheistic. You understand? One God. Whereas what was generally taught in India by the, quote, saints, sadhus, and everything like that was impersonalism, particularly the Ram Krishna mission, which Prabhupada termed the Murgi mission, which means, Murgi means the chicken eating mission, because Prabhupada said they would eat anything, even human flesh, if it was offered to them. Anyway, Prabhupada spoke in quite derogatory terms about the Ramakrishna mission. So, therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was more interested in monotheistic Christianity. So, eventually, we'll get to the point where he actually becomes interested in Krishna consciousness. And one may say that this means that he was coming to Krishna consciousness. No, he's an eternal, liberated soul who, for his pastimes arranged by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, appeared to be interested in something other than Krishna consciousness, or disinterested in the Vedic tradition in the beginning because of the way the Vedic tradition was being presented. So anyway, at a particular point, he went to Orissa to visit his paternal grandfather, who could predict the future, and also predicted that Bhaktivinoda Thakur would be a great acharya. And he told Bhaktivinoda Thakur to visit all the temples in the state of Orissa, which is where Lord Jagannath is worshipped. Eventually, in 1861, Bhaktivinoda Thakur accepted the post of deputy magistrate in the government of Bengal, and he wrote different literatures in English, not particularly about Krishna consciousness at this particular point. Finally, he received copies of the Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. As he read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, his faith in Krishna consciousness developed, of course we could say developed, but was revealed as part of his pastimes until he was absorbed in Krishna conscious shastras 24 hours a day. And he was praying to the Lord, and he fully manifested his understanding about the absolute personality, Sri Krishna. He even published a song about Lord Chaitanya entitled Satchidananda. And then he spent a lot of time in seclusion, apart from his duties in the court, chanting the holy name. And he began to write several books in Sanskrit. And his first literatures were like the Krishna Samhita, Tattva Sutra, and Tattva Viveka. And these are very elaborate Sanskrit texts. And wrote many books in Bengali, such as the Kalyana Kalpapatru. And in 1874, he composed another literature in Sanskrit called the Datta Kosubha. So, while he was at Puri, he established a Vaishnava discussion group in the same place where Ramananda Roy did his bhajan. All the prominent Vaishnavas joined him, except for one particular Babaji named Raghunath Das Babaji, who was criticizing Bhaktivinoda Thakur because Bhaktivinoda Thakur did not have tilak at that time, nor did he wear kantimala at this particular juncture in his life. So he even advised people to avoid Bhaktivinoda Thakur's association. But the reason Bhaktivinoda Thakur didn't wear tilak or have neck beads, because at that time, the system was you don't put on tilak or neck beads until you're initiated. It's a little bit different now. Actually, Srila Prabhupada established that one would wear one strand of neck beads before initiation and 3 strands after initiation. That was Prabhupada's system. How many strands you have? Should have 3. So anyway, this personality developed a disease, and Lord Jagannath told him, pray for the mercy of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur cured him. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also preached against another Babaji there who was creating havoc. His name was Charana Das Babaji, who said, you should only chant the Hare Krishna mantra in japa rather than in kirtan. So this particular individual went mad 6 months after offending Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the holy name, and he died in great distress. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur became the manager of the Jagannath Puri temple, and he regulated the deity worship and spent a lot of time chanting the holy name, especially at the Tota Gopinath Mandir, the tomb of Haridas Thakur, Siddhabakul, which is where Haridas Thakur did his worship, and the Gambhira, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu resided. He also made notes on the Vedanta Sutra. Then, in the Jagannath Balaba Gardens, then the 4th son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur took birth. I didn't mention the other sons because the 4th son is most important. He was named Bimala Prasad and later became known as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also, while he was administering the temple in Jagannath Puri, he discovered that the king of Puri had stolen 80,000 rupees. That's a lot of money in those days. Nowadays, it's not that much money, for sense gratification. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur passed judgment on him, and he forced the king to give Lord Jagannath Bhoga 52 times a day. So this means all the king's money went away very quickly. So he was so angry at Bhaktivinoda Thakur that he employed 50 pandits to do a fire sacrifice to kill Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and this fire sacrifice went on for 30 days. And when the last oblations were poured into the fire, the king's son, and not Bhaktivinoda Thakur, died. So he continued to write, and he was posted in different locations. Eventually, he took Pancharatrika initiation from Bipini Vihari Goswami, who descended from Janavamata's family. Many people, by his preaching, adopted Vaishnavism, and he gave people the understanding who was a Vaishnava and who was not. Eventually, he wanted to go to see Braj, that is, Vrindavan. So he took 3 months off for this purpose, and there he met Jagannath Das Babaji. And Jagannath Das Babaji became his eternal Siksha Guru, which was more prominent to him than his Diksha Guru. So he also regulated things in Vrindavan too. He got rid of many of the dacoits, that means the criminals that were there. Then eventually he was posted in Krishna Nagar, which is pretty close to Navadvip. And so every day, or not every day, but often, he would go to Navadvip and search for the birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So one night he was sitting on the rooftop of this Rani Dhamshala, which is the place where pilgrims stay, in Navadvip, which is across the river from Srinam Mayapur, chanting on his beads, and he spotted a very tall tree, which is a type of palm tree, with some strange substance attached to it. Near the tree was a small building that gave off a remarkable effulgence. And then he went to the library and he began to study some of the old manuscripts of the Chaitanya Bhagavat and the Navadvip Amma Parikrama by Narahari Sarka, and some very old maps of this particular area. And he spoke with many people around the area, and he uncovered facts about the modern day Navadvip, which was not actually where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in 1887, he discovered that the place that he had seen from the rooftop of the Dhamshala was in fact the appearance place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is confirmed, of course, by Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Later on, they brought Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj in a basket because he was like 118, 120 years old. You know, some biographies say 125, but he was quite old. And when he came to that place, being carried by his assistant Bihari, he jumped out of the basket, even though he was quite old, and started dancing in ecstasy, confirming that that was the appearance place of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then he took leave from government service, and he acquired some land in Godran, which we mentioned is on the other side of the Jalangi River from our Mayapur temple. He built his retirement house there, and Lord Nityananda and his Namhat were established at that place previously. Bhaktivinoda Thakur considered himself the street sweeper of the Namhat of Lord Nityananda. So, many other things happened. I'm skipping over this because we don't have a lot of time. Yeah, there's a lot of information. So there's this story. Whoops. Sorry. There's a story which I don't have written here. While he was posted as a magistrate, there was this rascal called Bishikishena who stated that he was an incarnation of Krishna. And he would go with his associates, who he called Brahma and Shiva, and they would go to the different villages and require people to give their daughters for him to have a rasa dance with. So many innocent people were bewildered by this rascal who had some mystic powers. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was assigned, and in addition, this rascal was against the British government. So that really got the British government officials upset. And then they asked Bhaktivinoda Thakur to go there and curb down this rascal. So he went there with so many Muslim police, because the Hindus were very much afraid of this guy. And he went to him and he challenged him. And this individual, Bishikashena, he understood why Bhaktivinoda Thakur had come. And he said, "Oh, you're meant to worship me." And Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, "No, I want to bring you to see Lord Jagannath." But then this rascal offended Lord Jagannath by, referring to him as something, I'm not going to even say it's so offensive, referring to him in a materialistic way, referring to the deity in a materialistic way. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur became incensed and dragged, along with all the magistrate, with all the police and everything like that, he dragged this rascal to the court. And the court case took place for many, many different days. And during that time, this person used his so-called mystic powers to make Bhaktivinoda Thakur's son sick. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur's wife said, let's let him go because we may all die. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, with his great determination, said, "Let us all die, but we have to curb this rascal." So then even the final day before the final judgment in the court case, Bhaktivinoda Thakur became extremely ill and, high fever. And somehow or other he got to court and he passed judgment on this particular rascal and sent him to prison. And it turned out this rascal's power was in his hair. So one of the British policemen who happened to be there at that time understood this, and he arranged for the hair of this rascal to be cut off immediately. And this rascal lost all of his power, and then in prison, a short time after that, he committed suicide and left this world. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very expert in curbing down these rascals. So, we continue, because we have some more time. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur had an assistant named Krishnadas Babaji, and he became very dear to Bhaktivinoda Thakur and was his constant companion up to the very end of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's pastimes. So, in the final portion of his life, he began solitary bhajan. He had many visitors to come to see him, and some simply wanted to disturb him, whereas others were sincere and benefited greatly from his spiritual inspiration. So in 1908, 3 months before Bhaktivinoda Thakur took sannyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's son arranged for Bhaktivinoda Thakur to meet the chief secretary to the government, William Duke, who was in Calcutta. Bhaktivinoda Thakur made an appointment to meet him on that day at the Writers' Building in Calcutta. And this particular chief secretary to the government was so impressed with Bhaktivinoda Thakur that he met Bhaktivinoda Thakur on the street outside the building and personally escorted him into his office. And with folded hands, because he had known Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he asked forgiveness for having once planned to remove Bhaktivinoda Thakur from the office of district magistrate. This is because he thought that if a qualified Indian would take up posts, the British would have to leave India after some time. So in those days, while he was studying Bhaktivinoda Thakur's activities, he would come to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house and would be fed puri, luchi, and sweets by Bhaktivinoda Thakur's wife. In other words, he was taking the hospitality of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's family. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, basically, he was so compassionate, answered, "I considered you to be a good friend and well-wisher all along," and gave him his blessings. But later, Bhaktivinoda Thakur admitted he was astonished that this particular individual wanted to harm him in some way. And then in 1908, Bhaktivinoda Thakur took the vesh, that means dressed as a Babaji in Puri. And until 1910, he would move between Calcutta and Puri, and he was still writing books. But during that year, 1910, he shut himself up and entered into samadhi, claiming that he was paralyzed. In other words, so to be completely absorbed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead without any other extraneous situation or interruption. So then, as we mentioned before, on June 23rd, 1914, he left this body, and this day is also the disappearance day of Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. So, any questions about Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Yes, yes. Oh, yeah. He propagated Chaitanya Charitamrita because it was hard to find a copy of the Chaitanya Charitamrita at that time. He spent some time trying to find it previously in the story. So he actually made the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu more popular. Yes. And he also dealt with all these deviant Vaishnava, so-called Vaishnava sects, the Upper Sampradayas, as did his son Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he told his son, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, actually, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to take initiation from Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj. And Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj was ostensibly illiterate, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was perhaps the most literate person at that particular time. And so he went to him, and Srila Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj, of course, refused. First of all, he said, I have to ask Lord Chaitanya. Then he said, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused. And then Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur threatened to leave his body if he couldn't take initiation from Srila Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj. Yeah, his father said, you have to do it. Okay. And today, of course, is the appearance of Gadadhar Pandit Goswami, who we didn't have a chance to talk about. But he is Radharani Vrishabhanu Nandini in the Panchatattva, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda. He was Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's childhood friend, and he remained during the final years of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Jagannath Puri, serving the Tota Gopinath deity, which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chose as the place where he would leave this world. He entered into the Tota Gopinath deity in Jagannath Puri. And Gadadhar Pandit Goswami also left this world in a very similar way, going into the deity room and not coming out. So Gadadhar Pandit Goswami took this vow of Kshetra Sannyas, which Prabhupada said, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, is the preferable state of renunciation, preferable sannyas in Kali Yuga, called Kshetra Sannyas, where one remains in a holy place, one can remain with his family, one remains serving, and gives up all items of sense gratification to serve Krishna, just like Bhaktivinoda Thakur did. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was an actual sannyasi throughout his whole life. So sannyasi is not simply a change of dress. Okay, actually it's time. All glories to His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami pritimanti pasyanti panti kayanti chiram naganti ananda chinmaya sadhu jala vigrahasya govindam adi purusham namaham bhajami govindam adi purusham namaham bhajami govindam adi purusham namaham bhajami govindam adi purusham.
Tamaham bhajami. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vacha Dehi Nivesesha Sunyapati Matsya Jagate Satana Dehi. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ramanityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Radhe I, O